Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming up today. My old subscribers, thank you. And to those that are viewing for the first time or that have not subscribed, please click on the subscribe button and the notification bell so you get notified each time we upload a new video. And to my new subscribers, thank you for subscribing. Please do not forget to hit on the like button. A mom set up a hidden camera to figure out what's happening with her daughter. And as parents, your instinct is to make sure that your child is happy and healthy no matter what. When you cannot figure out what your baby is crying about, it can cause major distress. This is what happened to this particular couple, that's Whitney Matney and her husband Chris. They couldn't understand why their child had started acting strangely. She was sleeping for a long period of time. And as a result of that, this brave and relentless mother is working tirelessly to make sure that the issues that affected Raylee, that's her daughter, was dictated. And Whitney and Chris were shaken to the core when their previously happy, upbeat, and seemingly normal baby, Raylee, started having screaming and crying fits much more often and more intensely than before. She also suddenly began sleeping much longer than usual, something that was completely out of the child's character because this was what was actually happening with their little daughter, Larry. And the wife, that's Whitney, eventually decided that the best way out to figure what was happening was to set a hidden camera in the house. When Chris and Whitney first brought their daughter into the world, when they gave birth to her and they came back home from the hospital, it was like a blissful time. And first child, always there's an excitement once you have your first baby. Raylee, that's their daughter, was truly a bundle of joy to this couple as she was very healthy and always cheerful. And this couple lived in Kansas, precisely Springdale, and they spent all their time together. It seemed like taking care of Raylee was joy and it gave them pleasure despite the waking up in the middle of the night. Although soon Whitney had other responsibilities that she needed to attend to, which presented a problem to the family. As if raising a child was not time consuming enough, Whitney was also attending her law school. And when it came time for her to hit the books, that to concentrate, have exams, write tests, and do all assignments, this got her more concentrated on the work, on her school work, and then she needed more attention for Raylee. As such, what she did was she thought of getting someone who would help take care of her daughter Raylee while they were all away from the home. And since Chris, her husband, was also a busy guy, they were left to look for a nanny. This decision ended up changing the lives of all the members of their family. And it will be great if Mary could descend from the sky with her magic umbrella to take care of their daughter. However, it wasn't real. When you imagine that Mary Poppins should come and take care, it's just like an illustration, and she's like a magic woman who will just come take care of your baby, make your baby happy, and you as a parent will be comfortable. And then hiring a nanny is a serious business, which we all know that it needs a lot of detailed investigation and also background checks which must be carried out. Also, childcare expert Susan Tukaya says that there's a childcare expert that they show mostly on screen. You could see her. She said that you really cannot do too much to confirm that you are hiring the right person. You need to do a diligent background check and digital digging. And in unthinkable cases, hiring the wrong nanny can even ruin a family. And there have been huge mistakes made in hiring processes, and also which has resulted to some criminal people which slip through the cracks, and you end up bringing those people into your house. And sadly, this can lead to nannies even stealing from families, which we've all known so many times, even neglecting the children, or worse, unspeakable things you would not imagine that a human being would do to a child. You would see this nanny doing that. So to avoid hiring a total stranger, Whitney was scared. These are all the speculations that had, which every mother would also have this kind of a feeling. She decided that she would look for someone on Facebook who would take care of their daughter. She got a response from someone she knew from a distant past. After posting her daughter's picture on Facebook and also requesting that she needed a nanny for her daughter. And the most promising Facebook friend who responded to Whitney was Melissa Medema, who was an old high school classmate. Still, Whitney did her due diligence and did background checks on Melissa. She even called several references of Melissa's, one of whom gave her highly positive review about her friend. Despite the fact that they had knew each other back then while in high school, Whitney felt that it's still reasonable to carry out a background check on this particular lady. The reference raved about her. Whitney reported that when Melissa met Raylee, that they really seemed to take in together. Melissa satisfied all fronts. Whitney also decided to hire her, feeling secured in her own decision. Although it was kind of hard to leave her baby with the nanny, first time, first baby, and then you're leaving your first child alone in the hands of a nanny. It can be scary, and there'll be this fear in the heart of the mother even when she's away from the house. But Whitney felt that she had done all she could when it came to background checks. It was also a slight relief as she had been taking care of her newborn non-stop for months and months in a row. And also, it will be nice to finally hand the baton to someone else. This is what Whitney was actually talking to herself when she had hired this Melissa nanny. When Whitney also came home from her first day, she saw that Raylee was still breathing and everything was okay. That's beautiful Raylee there with her dad. However, not too long afterwards, Raylee started acting strangely. It seemed that baby Raylee was having a bad bout of crankiness, as Melissa's arrival to the house was always made in this particular period. And this expression, you can see that Raylee is holding on to her dad. Once Melissa come into the house, Raylee starts crying and clinging on to her parents. They shouldn't go. So this was a strange behavior that they started noticing from their little daughter. You can see her there with her father. And Raylee would see her nanny and then run to hide behind her mom or her dad and cling to them. Not only that, Raylee will even scream and cry. It makes sense, as it is hard for any child to be left with someone who they do not know very well, especially at such a very young age. However, Whitney chalked up the screaming and crying up was becoming too much. Separation anxiety, that was what she was also thinking in her mind, and it usually occurs in kids between the ages of 6 months and 3 years. Raylee fits into this category because it seemed that that's the age that kids would run away from strangers and people they are not used to. When they see their parents or want to cling on to them, and they start crying, looking for their parents' attention. And there was nothing to worry about, though, as it seemed by medical professionals as a part of normal development in little kids, as long as it does not last past age 3. And this put Whitney at ease for a while until new information came to light. For a little bit, everything seemed to be going okay, more or less. Raleigh was suffering from a bit of separation anxiety, which Whitney eventually thought was normal, as she herself, while she was away on campus in the library, suffered from separation anxiety of her own, being away from her child, that beautiful Raleigh, and her mother. However, Whitney knew though that finishing her degree would not only give her satisfaction but make for a better life for her little child. However, a new worry quickly arose again. Just as Whitney was about to accept that young Raleigh was going through a normal phase, a new piece of information made her raise an eyebrow and worry. Melissa had told her that baby Raleigh was taking naps that spanned 4 hours in a length. This was something totally new to Whitney, who had only ever seen Raleigh nap for 1 hour at a time, tops. This made Whitney worry, as perhaps Raleigh had a medical issue that needed to be dealt with. And since the latest checkup that Raleigh had, it did not reveal any kind of problems. It showed that Raleigh was okay and everything was fine with her, which the mom was thankful about, that her daughter was healthy. But the mother, Whitney, still had suspicion towards Melissa. Why was it that all these issues began right after Melissa was hired? Was it a coincidence, or was there something deeper going on? The level of separation anxiety that Raleigh was experiencing seemed extreme to Whitney. If only she was not so busy at law school, Whitney could just take care of her baby herself. Instead, she used a somewhat sneaky trick, because everything was looking very strange to her. She had to figure another way out. It used to be that towns were small enough that they could go home for lunch in their own kitchen and also take time to check in on their kids and nanny. And now, with the expansion of cities, suburbs, and all consuming careers, it's impossible to do a little drop in like that anymore, since the whole area has actually expanded. And if Whitney could have done that, she would have, but the reality of the world we live in prevented times avoided that. Instead, she did something somewhat different completely. Whitney felt mixed emotions surrounding the behavior of her little daughter, about what she was even going to do, and she felt torn all through completely. But eventually, as a mother, she decided that solving the mystery of what was causing really strange behavior and fixing it was the most important thing to her. Whitney set up a hidden camera, which is sometimes called a nanny cam. This way, despite the fact that she could come home physically to check in on her baby during lunch, she could get the full picture of what was happening with Raleigh and Melissa each time she got back to the house to carry out a check. The nanny cam that Whitney got was disguised as a fully functioning clock radio. You can see that that's the clock radio there. It looks like a clock radio, but no one would even know that this is a camera. And no random observer would ever look twice at it. In fact, since you can check the time on your cell phone, people might not even look once at it. It looks exactly like a time clock that you set on your table, or like set for alarm to wake you up. As it turned on, it was not exactly as well hidden as Whitney would have liked. Still, the camera was fully functional, and Whitney anxiously waited for her law classes to be over so she could go home and see what was happening to her baby. You know, that anxiety of a mother being very curious to find out more information about what your daughter has been going through. And when Whitney finally came home, she threw down her bag and the keys in a rush, and then she dismissed Melissa and asked her to go, that it's over, she can continue from here till she's back home. Whitney made sure that Raylee was okay. You can see that that's where Whitney now quickly had to go to start checking on the camera to see if anything was actually happening. Raylee was stable and Whitney put her in a nearby to keep an eye on her. While Raylee was occupied, she rushed to find the nanny camp, and what she saw immediately caused a pang of panic in her chest. The clock radio had been turned around with the camera facing the wall, not the direction she put it where it would take view of everything that is happening in the environment. Melissa had to turn it so it would just be facing the wall. You wouldn't even know what is happening in the entire room. And this hidden camera was on the front of the clock radio, and now it was facing the wall, presumably filming nothing. How long had it been like that? How did Melissa know? Did Melissa realize she was being spied on? So that's the back of that particular camera she had set, in which Melissa turned away from viewing the room to viewing just the wall, which eventually nothing will be captured. And certainly it seemed like she did, because why else would someone turn around the clock like that, anxious to see what was on the recording, if anything at all beyond a video of the wall? Whitney scrambled to her computer. That was what I showed you earlier, where she was on her computer to check if there was anything. And when the video started playing, Whitney's heart raced. The images she saw were so hard to watch that it didn't sink in at first. Whitney said she continued that she couldn't believe it. And you can see there, that is the nanny, Melissa. There were many cardinal signs committed by Melissa that were so far away from the glowing recommendation Whitney had earlier about Melissa. And there were two main wrongdoings, the first of which is terrible, but the second one is what really made Whitney know that the police had to be contacted. The first and the last of the issues was neglected, and the hidden camera showed that Raylee was left alone for 2 hours in a row in a jumper. This sort of neglect can leave a baby feeling extremely helpless, especially when their cries of hunger and loneliness are ignored. You can see the way Melissa is just holding on to the child like it was a doll she was carrying. You see her face down and she just held her under her arm, which is really, really bad. That's Melissa, you can see there with Raylee. And there is no different from simply leaving Raylee alone in a house. So why even hire someone? And that is the truth, because it's like the child is left alone and yet there is a nanny. So it's like there is no difference between when a nanny is in the house and when nobody is in the house. Also, ignoring a crying child is simply heartless. However, the next part of the video was what made Whitney feel rage. The hidden camera captured Melissa doing something horrific. The nanny, who Whitney trusted with her baby's well-being, violently spanked Raylee, a little baby like that, perhaps to get her to stop crying. Even worse, she then moved Raylee onto her side, bit her lip, and vigorously and sharply shook her. This made the fragile infant wail in pain and feel awfully dizzy. This is really sad and heartbreaking to see a child being treated like this. Now say that no wonder Raylee would scream and cry when she saw Melissa come through the door. Whitney saw this and said, "I was filled with rage and fury like I've never been before." It's painful. Any mother would feel raged. You're seeing your child being treated like this, spanked, beating on her lips and everything. Oh, that's really heartless. And the first thing that jumped into Whitney's mind when the rage subsided a bit was shaking a baby syndrome. This is a medical condition that is caused by shaking a baby. It can cause severe brain damage in just 10 seconds of shaking. And this will splash affects babies more because their brains and skull are soft. In extreme cases, the brain cells might start dying due to lack of oxygen and cause the baby to pay the ultimate price. Whitney immediately called the cops and drove Rayleigh to the emergency room. The doctors in the emergency room were also concerned as Whitney and began to run tests on Rayleigh, including an MRI to look into her brain to make sure there was no gross damage to it. Whitney was panicked as she saw her baby dressed in a medical gown adorned with tigers with a blue hospital ID band and thought about how she would get her revenge on Melissa. However, there was one issue. Would Melissa ever be seen again? She did apparently find the hidden camera. So that made a kind of fear and scare in the heart of Whitney. You know, this woman had already seen the camera, owing to the fact that whatever she was doing had already been seen from that camera. The only fear Whitney had was if Melissa would now use this time to run away. And looking back at the video, you can see that the moment when Melissa looks at the clock, you can see that's the face of Melissa when she took a very close look at that clock and noticed that there was a camera there and picks it up. It takes a creepy selfie of sorts, and then Melissa turns the camera around to face the wall. You can see her face is so close. That's when she actually went very close to that particular camera. The couple had to install a clock radio nanny cam in their living room, and that she had to put up this camera thinking that maybe she's leaving her in her bouncer a little too longer. When she got home after the first day the camera was rolling, Matney said she knew something terribly was going on before she even watched a frame of video. This is what Whitney had to say. I looked over and I saw the camera sitting there and it was facing the wall. I immediately, my heart just leaped in my throat, she said. At some point, the nanny camera had apparently been discovered and the lens had been turned to face the wall and not the room. Whitney began to watch the day's recording and her worst fears were realized. The nanny was leaving Rayleigh in the bouncer for 2 hours. In addition, there was video of Medana spanking Rayleigh and worst of all, violently shaking her like a rag doll. Whitney was suddenly worried her daughter may have unseen injuries and incensed that the woman she trusted with her daughter. There's a level of crazy that exists in a mother that you don't know is there. This was what Whitney said. After watching the video, frantic, Whitney called police and rushed her daughter to the emergency room. Fortunately, Rayleigh checked out physically unharmed. 2 days later, Melissa showed up for work again and was met by the police. The Matney family said that she was wrecked by guilt over what more she could have done to prevent Melissa from ever working for her in the first place and not picking up a warning sign earlier. And because Rayleigh wasn't physically injured, Melissa was allowed to plead guilty to endangering the welfare of a minor. And in Arkansas, it's a class D felony and the least serious level. However, Melissa was given 90 days in jail and 3 years probation. And when Medina was found outside her Springdale apartment complex and asked for her side. She refused to comment. As such, the Matney family said that the sentence was too lengthy, but the biggest problem she had with the plea was that it would allow Melissa to take advantage of Arkansas Act 346, which gives first offenders who plead guilty and are sentenced to probation the chance to have their record expunged once they complete their probation. And after some digging, the Matney family discovered that once someone like Melissa had her own record expunged, if she wanted to nanny again, a family could have no idea she was ever convicted of her crimes. And the fact that Melissa is still out there and she describes her that you know this is a monster that can walk around, watch other children and have no ramifications at the end of 4 years. It's just beyond insane. That was what the Matney family is saying. And the family could unknowingly hire someone with Melissa's past because aside from other offenders, there is no publicly accessible online registry of child abusers in the country, and that she's trying to keep other people from being subject to Melissa and other people who have done this type of thing and had their record expunged. That she think their faces need to be out there at least for parents to know, and that Raylee is now happy and healthy, that now a lawyer and a mom on a mission has been working with Kansas lawmakers, representatives, so that other families would avoid the nightmare of nannies before a camera is even turned on. So you can imagine the pain that this family had to go through when they just discovered that their daughter was being abused by this particular nanny, because they were wondering why is it that when they are about leaving, their daughter would clinch onto them crying so loud and so hard that she wished they would stay at home. But the parents couldn't understand what was happening. You know, it's a little girl, she can't speak at that particular moment, or she can't even talk, so the parents would only use her facial expressions to read one and two together. Trust mother's instinct when it has to do with their babies. The mom felt that it's high time they take action. Even the husband too said the same thing, and that was when they had to put on the camera. And the nanny, which is even her own friend, noticed that there was a camera that was set up there. She now had to face it to the wall so they wouldn't see what she's been doing to her daughter. You'll be asking yourself a question: if you're not ready to take care of children or you don't love them, why do you decide that you're going to be a nanny or you have your own daycare when you don't even love children? You hurt other people's children in a way to express your own unhappiness. I think it's really bad, but thanks be to God that really is fine. She doesn't have any internal injuries or even physical injuries. But knowing that someone is taking care of your child, the person is shaking your child like he's a doll, he's not a human being, the person will spank your child at the same time, and this is just a little child who can't even express what she is going through. But thank God that her parents were on alert, which means they were monitoring the growth and the activities of their daughter even in their absence, because they know what their daughter is like when they're around her. But it's so unfortunate that this is even worse because the lady is a friend to the wife, to Whitney, and now she ended up being the one to maltreat their own daughter, and that's the only child that they actually have, when she is supposed to be the one to assist them and ensure that the parents come back home happy and confident that their child is in good hands. But the reverse was the case. Please, this goes to people out there, especially those that are into taking care of babies, nannies, even in school. Please search your heart very well and be sure that you have love for kids, because if you don't have love for kids, you can't work in an environment like that. You would either be faced with different challenges that you can't even cope. Because I'll be asking these women that do this act, that carry this horrible act on babies, what if it is their own child that is being treated that way? Have they thought of it? Some of them are just out to make their money. They don't care about even how the children of the house feel. Please, people need to have a thorough check, find out, get details. If it means you getting a nanny from a registered company, then you are sure of where to lay your hands and who to communicate with. It's difficult when you don't even have access to any help at all. So please be very, very observant. Be mindful of whom you leave with your child alone. Be mindful of whom you entrust the care of your baby in their hands. Some of them only do it for the sake of the money, end up maltreating the children. It is not nice that you treat other people's children in such cruel manner. Friends, what do you have to say about this regarding this nanny who is a friend to the wife, and unknown to them that this lady wasn't out to really take care of their child, but she was out to express a kind of pain and anger, and that was ending up on this little baby. Once again, thank God that she is fine. Thank you for coming up today. Please, this goes to all parents out there that are searching or seeking for someone to take care of their babies, because right now I know a lot of people who are trying to struggle hard to make ends meet. Some have gone into different businesses and some of them go to work, which they need help with if they have a baby in the house. But please don't be in a hurry to just pick anybody. It's better you go through their agency, because Whitney had to find Melissa, her friend, on Facebook. Some information are not good to display on Facebook because you may end up getting the wrong person or the wrong people. So the best is for you to go to their own agency registered, and then you pick and find out from them more about that particular girl you're trying to take, so you won't be left all by yourself. So parents, please take note of this while you hire people to babysit your baby in your absence. Friends, thank you for coming up today. Please don't forget to hit the like button, also the notification bell, and subscribe so you get notified each time we upload a new video. Thank you. God bless you all.